Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor questioned him, saying, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And Jesus said to him, "It is as you say." And while he was being accused by the chief priests and the elders, he did not answer.
I'm Father John Cummins. I'm the associate rector here at St. Bartholomew's Anglican Church. I've been here almost 7 years and really blessed to see each year as we celebrate Good Friday and Easter time, how the congregation grows in reaction to the reenactment, if you will, the readings of the Passion of Jesus Christ, and how Good Friday becomes a significant part not only of our year but of our lives. The Tenebrae service is an ancient, it's been done for many, many years, and it is known as the Solemn Tenebrae. It really is a remembrance of the darkest day that has taken place on the face of this earth, where for a brief time Jesus was disconnected from God, but then reconnected and brought to the glory that we see on Easter Sunday. It's a very interesting time where we begin the service as we would any normal Sunday service or Palm Sunday. We're jubilant, we're vested in the full colors, and it begins with a knock on the door, and a man asks, "Who is this King of Glory?" In other words, who's at the door? Then the service begins, we process in as if it's a joyful day, and then the story is told of the betrayal, and then of Jesus being whipped, being scourged, taken to the cross, his death, and then again to come to the fruition or the hope that we all know that Jesus rose again, and he's the only one with an empty grave.
My name is Arthur Ward. I'm the rector of St. Bartholomew's Anglican Church. Tenebrae is a very important service for us. Obviously, it's on Good Friday. We begin the service on a triumphal note, celebrating Christ as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And then we continue with the processional hymn. During this triumphal procession, we have acolytes who are dressed in red robes with candles, each representing the 12 apostles. One of the things as we continue on, as we move to that point where Christ actually dies, as the reader is reading the gospel, there comes a point where we hear that the Lord gave up his spirit. And at that point, the ombre light, the red globe with the candle in it, is extinguished, so that the entire sanctuary, chancel, nave area where everyone is seated is in darkness. Again, highlighting the fact that Christ has died, the light of the world seemingly has been extinguished.
My name is David Saunders, and I've been a lay minister at this church for over 20 years. And almost every one of those 20 years I've had the privilege of reading one of the lessons at the Tenebrae service. Most of the time it's been the fourth lesson, Matthew's Gospel, which describes the mocking and the trial of Jesus and his ultimate crucifixion. It's a bit of a responsibility. You have to keep in mind that the congregation is listening, and it's important to read the Word of God clearly, with understanding. So there's some preparation involved, but it's indeed a privilege to do it. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many things they testify against you?" And he did not answer him with regard to even a single charge. So the governor was quite amazed. Now at the feast, the governor was accustomed to release for the people any one prisoner whom they wanted. At that time, they were holding a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when the people gathered together, Pilate said to them, "Whom do you want released for you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?" For he knew that because of envy they had handed him over. But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds to ask for Barabbas and to put Jesus to death. But the governor said to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release for you?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ?" They all said, "Crucify him." And he said, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they kept shouting all the more, saying, "Crucify him." When Pilate saw that he was accomplishing nothing, but rather that a riot was starting, he took water and washed his hands in front of the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood. See to that yourselves." And all the people said, "His blood shall be on us and on our children." Then he released Barabbas for them. But after having Jesus scourged, he handed him over to be crucified.
And after that point, we have an acolyte ring the Sanctus Bell 33 times, each for every year that Christ was on earth. So the whole service, while it begins on a triumphal note, it ends on a more serious note, and yet at the same time, there is the hope of the resurrection as we see the cross take light behind the altar at the end of the service. After we hear the 33 tolls of the bell, the acolytes, those acolytes representing the 12 apostles, the choir, all recess out of the church in silence. The church is dark, the clergy follow the choir, and then everyone else leaves in silence. There is no talking. And we have found that over the years, this is a powerful point because it drives, again, home the seriousness, the great sacrifice that was made on all of our behalf, and that without Christ there is no light. We remain in the darkness.